Well, our wine racks are complete.
And we only made like 43 mistakes.
That's true, and just like every week, we're gonna show you how we did it. We're gonna give away some free tools and start a new project.
But first, it's time for Make or Break.
Hey guys, welcome back to Make or Break. I'm Ram.
And I'm Sarah, and I will never believe this guy again when he says he found a project that was easy.
It was. We just kind of screwed it up, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's head over to Caleb's place at You Can Make This Too, where he just got an order for 100 beer flights, complete with a beautiful leather brand and a cool chalkboard that the waiters can use to label the flights. It's a great build video that's a lot less about building a beer flight and a lot more about building 100 of something. That's more than Caleb thought, and he does a great job of really driving home what it takes to make 100 of anything.
Mike from Industrial Maker caught my eye this week with a beautiful white concrete double vanity sink and has completely convinced me that I can do this too. Starting with a few laminated foam boards, he actually carves the form by hand, and then he slowly works his way to the concrete mold. That has to be one of the most simplistically beautiful sinks I've ever seen.
Jonathan at Katz Moses Woodworking decided not only can you never have enough clamps, but the urgent nature of that reality should drive all of us to make clamps of our own. Count me in. Specifically, John designed and created plans for a wood cam clamp that you can download and print yourself, or you can purchase MDF templates from his website. Besides being a functional set of cam clamps, they're simply beautiful. And I gotta say, there's really something satisfying about building something with tools that you actually built.
Our last stop is at Once Upon Workbench, where Donovan found a paperback copy of The Last Wish, Introducing the Witcher, and decided it needed a custom leather cover complete with Gerald's White Wolf medallion made on his 3D printer. I really like this concept. I think taking a favorite book and making it your own with a bit of magic makery is a great idea. Also, I've never worked with leather before, and this looks like a really good excuse.
Every week, we invite a different maker to come on the show and share an instance with us where they chose to make something better instead of just throwing something away or buying something new. Now this week, we had the pleasure of an in-person interview with a buddy of mine named Ray Bellfrige, who after several years of looking for his perfect bass, decided the right thing to do was to make his own. Guys, we're here with my buddy Ray in the studio. Every week, as you know, we invite a maker to tell us a story about a time in which they chose to, instead of throwing something away or spending a lot of money on something new, decided to make something better themselves. Ray, thanks for being here. Really
Absolutely, Rob. Thank
you. Awesome. So before we go into what's obviously something very beautiful here in front of us, tell us about yourself. What is it that you do for a living?
Sure. My name is Ray. I am a mechanical engineer and I work in Lean Six Sigma process improvement.
So we're obviously here today to talk about this beautiful instrument in front of us. Tell me, what was it that led you to try to make a bass?
Sure. Started off about 15 years ago with a 4-string bass that was borrowed, went to a 5-string very quickly. Long story short, I always wanted a 6-string. And so looked around, all the ones I played, didn't really like, or didn't like this and that, or were way too expensive and out of my price range. So decided, well, I'm an engineer, I can figure this out, I can do it. So
there you go, awesome. So let me ask you though, so when this feels really daunting to me for obvious reasons. The idea of trying to take on something like a bass or a guitar is just mind-numbing. I wouldn't even know where to begin. How did you get started?
Well, I actually had a 35-year-old piece of walnut that was my grandfather's.
That's this right here,
Part
right?
of that is sitting right there, yeah.
Awesome.
Gorgeous. That's what's left over. It was a square, about 5 foot long, of walnut that sat in my basement for 10 years.
All right.
Didn't want to screw that up. So I laminated a 2x4 bass, which is what you see over there, and you can see holes in it and trying different things.
You literally built a scale bass out of 2x4s.
Yep.
Like, did you actually sit and pretend to play with this thing?
I sure did. I watched movies on the couch with my wife, sitting here just holding a 2x4 bass, looking like an idiot. So, but it was really fun. Yeah.
So did that make a difference? Did you notice anything out of the ergonomics make a change?
Yeah, it actually helped me design. How do I want the upper horns and lower horns? Where do I want it to sit? How do I want it to feel and the balance?
Can you give us a quick tour of the bass?
I would love to. This is a 7-piece laminated 6-string guitar.
And these two dark, this has got to be the walnut from your grandfather, right?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. These two pieces here. This neck I bought because I didn't want to do the fretwork. For my first guitar, I don't want to screw that up. These two pieces are 35 years old. What I designed was I loved connecting the upper and lower horns here, kind of making that smooth transition. Not a lot of custom guitars have that. And then the backside, really enjoyed even the knots that came in, just really give us some really nice character. And this is carbon fiber that covers the electronics.
They're all inside.
Yep, active electronics with passive as well.
Well, it's absolutely beautiful. Now, there's one other thing about this I really love. This is not like an art piece for you. This is a daily driver, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I play this 2 to 3 times a month at our local church. Love it.
Clearly, the next question is what's next?
Happy to make more.
Are you taking orders?
Sure. I really enjoyed the process, and it would certainly be much faster, but it took about 1,500 hours of reading, designing.
Awesome. So was it worth it? Are you glad that you made something instead of buying something?
It means so much more doing it myself.
Oh, certainly. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for coming by.
Okay, before we get into this week's project, it's time to pop into Instagram for a few of our favorite maker posts. First, we're going to drop in on Rocking Sea Woodworks with some of the smoothest, soft close action you'll see all week.
That is smooth. Next, over on 3x3 Custom, they asked the community for their thoughts on templates and the use of flush trim bits for duplicating parts. And I'm really struggling to understand this question. Who doesn't like this?
Cam from Cam's Corner Shop asked the age-old question, can you overclamp?
Nope, of course not. And last of all, Izzy Swan showed off the camera jib he's been working on for his shop, and it's glorious. Speaking of, if you're an Izzy fan and have yet to download his Maker's Playground app, you're missing out. Go do that.
It's project time.
That's right. So last week, we pointed you to a video from Build It Better.
Craig shared a simple plan for a DIY wine rack that we thought would make a perfect Valentine's gift and a great project.
All right, so here's how it turned out. Okay, the short answer, fine.
They're more than fine. We just ran into a bunch of problems, despite this being a fairly simple project.
All right, that's true, so let's get to the details. We started with a simple 2x4 and cut 45-degree angles into it with our 10-inch miter saw.
We measured out a 13-inch piece and used a stop block to make sure our 3 pieces were equal lengths.
After that, we tried to drill holes.
Yeah, we made several missteps here. Craig used a hole saw, so we didn't think twice about doing the same.
The problem was, the hole saw that we selected wasn't ideal. It was only a 3/2 saw that absolutely mutilated the wood and left us with some really ugly holes.
We tried several different techniques for cleaning these up, but after asking for advice on Instagram, we headed over to Woodcraft where we found these excellent Forstner bits on sale for half off.
Yep, and we couldn't afford not to save that money.
The Forstner bit was a total rock star, perfectly smooth cuts, and we were back on track.
After we got the holes done, we sanded the pieces and began the glue-up process.
This is where we went a bit off the rails. There are a lot of ways to clamp up a miter joint, but in Craig's video, he simply used some glue and tape, let it dry, and then screwed the 2 pieces together.
Now that might have worked if we were patient enough to let it dry.
But we were not.
Nope, we got impatient and didn't feel like the 2 pieces were fitting together, so I held the pieces while Sarah pre-drilled holes, and then I foolishly grabbed a couple construction screws that I thought would pull the pieces together.
In your defense, they did, but since they were connected on a slope, the screws simply slid the pieces out of contact, making for a less than ideal look.
Now, we didn't have time to start from scratch, so we simply sanded down the overlap. Not pretty, but it will get us through Valentine's Day.
After we screwed them together, we sanded them down, we grabbed a light brown dye from General Finishes, applied it generously, and then wiped off the excess with a paper towel. This definitely made the project look better from a few feet away. I'm not thrilled with how this one came out, but after resolving each mistake, I'm really anxious to try this again.
After we made this attempt, I was actually inspired to try again, and this time I wanted to laminate a few different species together to see if I couldn't get like a cool striped look with just some clear finish. Now I got 2 white oak boards, one darker than the other, and a piece of pine. I glued them together, clamped them up, and waited. Once they dried, since I didn't have a planer, I simply sanded them down until they matched. I cut them up, and then, well, I realized at that point that I didn't choose boards wide enough. I wanted this to match the 3.5 by 1.5 inch of a 2x4, and I got the 1.5 inch right, but for some reason I grabbed 2.5 inch wide boards. This created a new problem for me. Now when I put the wine bottles in it, the bottles would bump the walls, so I grabbed some scrap and cut a pair of standouts for mounting it to the wall. This gave me a cool floating look, or so I told myself with as much confidence as I could. From there, I just ran into more problems. I didn't pre-drill thick enough holes, so I split one of the mounts. I didn't sand enough everywhere, so some glue ruined the finish. Ugh. Just not my best effort, but I did finish it. It held 6 bottles on the wall, and my wife loved it. So, gotta call that a win. I really think we would do so much better a second time.
For sure. But that's gonna have to wait because it's time to award our giveaway.
That's right, each week we ask you to build the same project along with us, post it to Instagram, and then we randomly choose a winner who will get some new tools from Hart. This week we had entries from Wally Knott, Toolproof, Anthony Schmacher, King David Contractors, Fur and Feather Farm, Jeff Kirsting, and Razorworks. Guys, these were all awesome. Thank you so much for building with us. They all look amazing. We randomly chose a winner, and the winner this week was Fur and Feather Farm, so congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, it's time for our next project.
Yep, and this time we're going to build a coat rack and mail holder based on one made by the DIY Huntress herself back in 2018.
This is a very simple design that we're gonna try to customize a bit.
Yep, there are actually 3 of us who work here in the studios at Belts and Boxes, and quite frankly, we need a place to hang our jackets and safely keep our phones while we shoot.
Remember, if you build a coat rack on your own, be sure to share a video or photo to Instagram for a chance to win a 6.5-inch circular saw, a 4-amp-hour battery to keep it going, and a 20-volt LED light to help you see what it is you're cutting with that new saw.
Yep, just be sure to include the hashtag #MakerBreak so we can find it. Thanks again for joining us this week. A special thanks to Hart for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single episode.
That's it. Break's over. Let's go make something.